In the winter of 1876, a surveying crew abandoned a promising gold claim along the Murrumbidgee tributaries in New South Wales. Official records cite equipment failure and adverse conditions, but the expedition logs tell a different story. The final entry, dated July 14th, reads, "It knows the edge of firelight. It knows when we sleep." 23 men entered that valley. 19 returned. What the official account doesn't mention is the 4-meter depression in the riverbank mud, the claw marks scored deep into ironbark timber, or the fact that every water source within 3 kilometers had gone completely silent. This is the reconstruction of what happened when colonial ambition collided with something far older than the continent itself. The Waram Bungle expedition of 1876 was led by Thomas Greer, a veteran of the Victorian goldfields. The crew of 23 included surveyors, shaft sinkers, equipment handlers, and 2 Aboriginal guides, Billy Worham and his cousin, listed only as J. Worham. Their objective: establish a mining camp along Cypress Creek and assess its gold deposits. They departed Dubbo on June 2nd with 4 wagons and 3 months' provisions. By June 8th, they had entered dense eucalyptus forest. Cypress Creek cut through a valley 12 kilometers long, flanked by sandstone ridges. The water ran year-round, fed by underground aquifers. Temperature averaged 8 to 14 degrees Celsius, cold but manageable. On June 12th, they established base camp beside a billabong approximately 40 meters across. The site was ideal: level ground, good drainage, proximity to water. Surveyor Marcus Bellamy noted the billabong's depth varied from 1 to 3 meters, with dark, tannin-stained water revealing pale stone beneath. Routine set in quickly: morning surveys, afternoon equipment assembly, 2-man watch rotation through the night. Greer maintained strict discipline, recording daily progress meticulously. On June 15th, surveyor's assistant Daniel Fisk discovered stripped vegetation 30 meters upstream. The paperbark trees showed parallel scraping marks from ground to 2 meters height, deep enough to reveal pale wood beneath. Fisk's sketch shows 4 parallel gouges, each 3 centimeters wide, running in consistent downward strokes. The marks were fresh, sap still weeping. Greer attributed it to wild cattle. Bellamy suggested flood debris. Neither explanation addressed the freshness or the fact that no cattle had been observed. Billy Worham began sleeping closer to the fire. On June 17th, the night watch reported the first acoustic anomaly. Shortly after midnight, all nocturnal sound, possum movements, nightjar calls, insect chorus, ceased completely. The silence lasted 20 minutes. When sound returned, it rebuilt gradually from distant bird calls to normal density. This pattern repeated on June 18th and 19th, always between midnight and 2 a.m. Equipment handler James Croft remarked, "Bush don't go that still unless something big is moving through." By June 20th, they had identified 3 promising mining sites. Spirits were high. That night, something entered the camp perimeter. First light on June 21st revealed a single track beside the billabong, 8 meters from the night watch position. The track measured 30 centimeters in length, roughly oval, with 4 distinct toe impressions. Depth of 7 centimeters suggested considerable weight. Greer's sketch shows a bipedal gait with 2-meter stride length. The tracks approached from the creek, moved parallel to camp for 20 meters, then returned to water, never closer than 6 meters to the tents. The night watch, William Shaw and Patrick O'Donnell, insisted they'd heard nothing. Quiet night, Shaw reported. O'Donnell noted only the silence period at 1:15 a.m. Billy Worham examined the tracks, spoke briefly with his cousin in their language, then told Greer, "Old thing, water thing, you should move camp." Greer refused.
"A large wombat," he wrote, though his measurements contradicted this. The following night brought vocal evidence. At 11:40 p.m., a sound emanated from the billabong, a low resonance with rhythmic quality, like wind through a deep cave but with deliberate modulation. It lasted 40 seconds, then ceased. The water remained disturbed for several minutes, ripples emanating from a point 15 meters from shore in 2-meter depth. Morning revealed new tracks circling the camp completely, maintaining 10 to 15 meters distance. At one point, they approached within 4 meters of the supply tent. More concerning, a survey marker had been pulled from the ground and deposited in the creek shallows. The wood showed crushing damage, and the metal cap bore 4 parallel scratches, identical to those on the stripped trees. That afternoon, Bellamy discovered Aboriginal rock art on the eastern ridge, ochre paintings depicting human figures, and one dominant image, a large form in water, surrounded by concentric circles. Below it, carved in what appeared to be recent work, 1844, "Do not camp." On June 24th, the silence period lasted 37 minutes. Night Watch Samuel Price reported disturbance in the billabong center, as though something very large was moving just beneath the surface. At 1:27 a.m., the vocalization returned from the creek itself, closer than before. Multiple men reported feeling it as chest vibration, causing discomfort and nausea. The horses panicked. One broke free and had to be recaptured a kilometer from camp. Dawn on June 25th revealed equipment moved during the night. Ropes, stakes, canvas bags arranged in a 3-meter circle. The items were soaking wet despite being left above the water line. In the circle's center, pressed deep into mud, was a track measuring 42 centimeters in length. Greer called a meeting. "We are scientific men. Unusual wildlife behavior does not constitute grounds for abandoning a valuable claim." The vote: 11 for staying, 8 for departure, 4 abstentions. By midday, Billy Worham and his cousin had left. Billy's final words: "It was here before the river. It will be here after. You are in its country now." 21 men remained, isolated, with 3 weeks' supplies and survey work half complete. That afternoon, the temperature dropped 4 degrees despite clear skies. Bird calls diminished. The billabong surface became absolutely flat. No insect disturbance, no fish movement, no wind ripple. Like black glass. Bellamy tested the water depth. At 18 meters from shore, previously measured at 2 meters, the line descended over 8 meters before touching bottom. The rope emerged coated in thick black sediment with faint iridescence and a smell like tidal mudflats mixed with something chemical. Multiple soundings revealed profound depth inconsistencies, some areas less than a meter, others exceeding 10 meters. The billabong connected to underground systems of unknown extent. At 4:30 p.m., Price discovered damage to a supply wagon. The wooden tongue had been splintered, showing parallel marks. The force required exceeded human capability without tools. The wagon had been positioned 30 meters from water, with crew nearby all afternoon. No one had seen anything. Greer ordered equipment consolidated, firearms distributed, watch increased to 3 men per shift. At 2:15 a.m. on June 26th, all 3 watch members reported simultaneous awareness of being watched, accompanied by pressure change like before a thunderstorm. Croft raised his lantern toward the tree line.
The stringy barks, 20 to 30 meters tall, were moving, not swaying in wind, but shifting as something large moved between them. The movement was fluid, continuous, impossible given trunk spacing. It followed the perimeter in an arc from east to north, then stopped. In the silence,
they heard heavy water displacement, something entering the billabong from the far bank. Dawn revealed a channel 4 meters wide carved through reeds on the northern bank, running from water's edge 10 meters into forest. Vegetation crushed flat into mud. At the channel's origin, a track 73 centimeters long, 4 distinct toe impressions with claw marks 11 centimeters deep. Using standard calculations, Bellamy estimated the creature's mass at no less than 400 kilograms. 4 men began packing immediately. By late afternoon, 7 men had departed on foot. 14 remained with Greer. They consolidated into defensive perimeter, struck all tents except Greer's, arranged equipment in a circle around the central fire. Every man was armed. 3 fires were lit to illuminate approaches. The sun set at 5:47 p.m. By 6:30 p.m., full darkness had settled. The silence began at 7:15 p.m., earlier than before, and absolute. At 8:33 p.m., the billabong's surface began to move. Displacement started at the deepest point, manifesting as concentric rings spreading outward, slow and regular. The rings continued for 3 minutes, then stopped. At 9:10 p.m., they heard it on land. The vocalization came from the forest north of camp, perhaps 50 meters distant. It lasted nearly 2 minutes. Multiple crew reported chest resonance and profound unease. Greer ordered reconnaissance. 5 men, Bellamy, Croft, Price, Shaw, and Hutchins, advanced to the forest edge with lanterns and rifles. They reached the tree line at 9:31 p.m. As they approached, temperature dropped precipitously, at least 10 degrees in seconds. Their breath became visible. They smelled deep water that hasn't seen sunlight in geological time. Then the trees began moving. Something moved through them, around them, close enough to shift 30-centimeter trunks with minimal effort. Croft fired into the darkness. The muzzle flash illuminated the forest for an instant. All 5 men reported seeing an absence of light where light should penetrate, a density to shadows that absorbed illumination. In scale, something level with branches 4 meters high, broad enough to eclipse multiple trunks simultaneously. They retreated to the perimeter. Bellamy reported to Greer, "Something is out there, something very large. We need to leave, now." But nighttime evacuation was impossible. Greer made the only decision: defend until dawn, then evacuate. At 10:45 p.m., vocalization returned from multiple directions, north, east, and from the billabong, triangulating their position. At 11:30 p.m., something moved through the perimeter close enough to make fires flicker, never entering the light. At 12:15 a.m., the deep water scent intensified, mixed with biological musk. At 1:50 a.m., it entered the water directly in front of them. The billabong erupted. Massive entry generated half-meter waves striking shore. Something moved through the water, creating wake that carved across the billabong's width, visible only as displacement. It approached within 10 meters of shore and stopped. For 73 seconds, 14 men stared at water where something large held position just beyond visibility. Some reported firelight caught on something smooth and dark breaking the surface. Others reported breathing sounds, deep and regular. Then it submerged. Ripples gradually diminished. The billabong returned to unnatural stillness. No one slept that night. Dawn arrived at 6:23 a.m., The 14 men began immediate evacuation, abandoning most equipment. They reached Menduran Pastoral Station by late afternoon. Greer's official report cited geological instability and equipment complications. No mention of tracks or encounters. But his personal journal tells the complete story. The final entry. I have submitted the official account as circumstances require. The truth would destroy careers. But I remain certain of what we observed and what we fled from.
No mining company will receive my endorsement to return. Of the 7 who departed June 26th, 4 reached Mendoran. 3 were never found. Search parties discovered no trace beyond a single boot print 8 kilometers from camp. Billy Worham returned to his community. A station manager's diary records his statement. We told them it was there. We told them to leave. Some things are older than your maps. In September 1876, a geological team found the abandoned camp heavily disturbed. Tents shredded, equipment scattered, wagon frames showing damage consistent with immense pressure. They also found tracks. Their survey was abandoned after 2 days when a member disappeared during night watch. He was found at the Billabong's edge the next morning, alive but unresponsive, repeating, "It was looking at me," from the water. In 1884, New South Wales declared the valley unsuitable for development. Official reasoning? Unstable hydrology. The valley was never surveyed again. Over subsequent decades, scattered reports emerged. Unusual tracks near water sources, vocalizations from billabongs at night, occasional livestock disappearances. Aboriginal communities maintained their knowledge of what they called Bunyip, a term colonizers adopted without understanding its deeper meaning. Bellamy's photographs survived. The rock art was verified as authentic, potentially hundreds of years old. The carved warning suggests earlier colonial encounter, though no 1844 records exist. The 73-centimeter track was cast in plaster before evacuation. The cast reached the Australian Museum in 1899, catalogued as unknown large marsupial. Examined in 1923, 1967, and 2003, each examination concluded the morphology matches no known Australian species, extinct or extant. The last documented exploration occurred in 1958, a University of Sydney biology team surveying marsupials. Their report, filed after 11 days, notes equipment malfunctions, recording device interference, and adverse psychological effects necessitating early termination. The appendix includes one photograph, riverbank showing stripped paperbark trees with deep parallel scoring. The valley remains accessible but unvisited. Maps mark the creek, the billabong, the ridges, but no mining claims have been filed since 1876. The land exists in peculiar status, not protected, not wilderness, simply avoided. And sometimes, on still nights, people in the Mendoran district report hearing something from those ridges, a low, resonant sound carrying for kilometers, rhythmic and deliberate, like a voice calling from water that has not seen sunlight since the world was young. The sound continues. The valley waits. And somewhere between verified record and dismissed testimony, the question remains. What did Thomas Greer's crew encounter in 1876? The official record says nothing, but 19 men survived to know the answer, and 4 men never returned to provide theirs.